Black True Crime is a podcast that researches and discusses murders committed by Black offenders. It is a podcast that everyone and anyone is welcome to enjoy, but it's also a podcast that may not be welcomed by anyone and everyone. So listener discretion is advised. Now, without further ado, this is Black True Crime. Hello, everyone.
Hi, guys.
I'm Kayla.
And I'm Kristen, your co-host.
If you guys are on Patreon, you can see that we have a little new setup going on right now because we are together for this episode. So,
yeah,
we're sitting next to each other. It's fun.
This is my house.
You can't see much of it, but
thank God,
it's her home. It's actually really cute, you guys.
Yeah, but
it's maybe she'll do like a tour one day.
Mm-hmm. Maybe.
So super excited to be back this week. We didn't put out an episode last week, but we are back and we missed you guys. So thank you for coming back. Also, before we start, if you have anything that you want to say to us in regards to maybe us having an insensitive moment or saying a joke that we thought was funny that may have not really been funny in the grand scheme of things, please send us an email or DM us. However, when you do that, come with some motherfucking tact. Like you got some good sense, because coming at us like you don't, like you want to be smacked isn't going to get you anywhere.
Right.
We are always open to learning and always open to being better hosts of this podcast. But disrespect ain't going to get you nowhere. So if you don't come, over here in our DMs or in our, email with love and light, bitch, get ready to fight, because that's the only thing that we're going to be on from here on out. Okay.
Yeah. It just makes sense. Like if you want someone to hear you, don't berate them. Come at them correct, and then we will always hear you out. We'll always adjust because we want to be better people anyway.
Period.
Let alone better co-host and host.
Period. So love y'all, but the people that don't know how to talk to us, bitch, come correct, and then we might fuck with you too. Okay, are we ready to start?
We're ready.
I'm ready. Gary and Lovetta Green met in the late 2000s and fell in love. Within a short time, they decided to make the huge commitment of getting married. Lavetta thought she'd met the man of her dreams, the man that would love her and her three children to the best of his abilities. But unfortunately, this was not the case, and the man she married turned out to be the monster of her dreams. And soon, Lavetta would find herself not only fighting for her life, but the lives of her children as well. Join us as we discuss Lavetta's life, her brutal murder, and everything in between. Join us as we discuss her monster, Gary Green.
Oh, that took me out for the count.
When I tell you, this is a case that really knocked me in my throat pocket, because I found videos of her, and when you find videos of, the people that have lost their lives, it just humanizes them so much more. I felt like I knew her in some way. It was horrific. So we're going to get into it.
I haven't even seen the crime scene photos yet, but just like the blurs, and there's already so much blood.
Okay. I was about to say, just a little warning. If you're on Patreon, you will see some graphic shit. I'm going to give you a warning before it pops up. So, I love you. You're welcome. Yeah. And if you're not on Patreon, what you doing? What you doing?
Patreon, like what the heck?
What you doing? At any level, you can catch this video and you can see our faces and see Lavetta's face. Also, I saw her name pronounced Lavetta and Lavetta, so I'm not really sure. I may just go, I may just switch between the two. So first, we're going to talk about Gary's bitch ass. Gary Green was born on March 14th, 1971. Kristen, you don't have anything for us this week, do you?
We don't have anything, because I feel like we've done 1971 a lot.
We have.
So we're just going to keep quiet and chill on this one.
He was born to a woman that I'm going to refer to as Mrs. Sampson. That's what her name was in the court documents. Her family had a very colorful history when it came to mental health. So Mrs. Sampson's sister was treated for mental issues when they were younger. Her stepbrother killed his wife and then committed suicide. And even her mother had to be on medication for her mental health issues.
So not only were they mentally ill in the family, but they were attracting mentally ill people because of the stepbrother.
Yeah, they weren't related, like blood related in any way. So,
but the attraction was there. This is dangerous already.
Her mother would often engage in bizarre behavior like faking pregnancies and miscarriages, which is pretty deplorable. But I feel like almost all of us have been there if we've all been a piece of shit at one point in our lives.
Did you fake a pregnancy?
No, I faked a miscarriage. But that was a whole different story, you guys, that you wouldn't be judging me. You wouldn't be saying, oh, she's horrible. You'd be like, okay.
Right.
Empathy.
Right. Because if you have to go that dark.
I know. No. There was empathy. Yeah, there was empathy attached. I promise. Mrs. Sampson said she had a nervous breakdown while she was pregnant with Gary's younger brother named, good Lord, Nysasno. It's spelled Nysasno.
Something is silent.
It has to be.
Because what is that?
There's a lot of consonants in there. I'm just confused. Okay.
But it's still kind of beautiful when you look at it.
It does seem a little exotic. But after her stepbrother committed suicide and the pregnancy thing, she had to be prescribed Valium. So far, everyone has had some type of instability in their brain, in their mental functioning system. And Gary is not someone that missed that mark. Gary's father, a man named Thomas Carter, spent time in a military prison for reasons I was not able to fucking find.
What the heck?
Yeah.
Was
military
he in
prison.
the military?
Yeah, that's really the only way that you end up in military prison.
Makes sense.
But he was said to be physically and emotionally abusive toward Gary and his mother. Thomas once choked Gary's mother right in front of him. So
that type of stuff changes a boy.
Yeah, they take that to the bank.
Yeah, they either repeat it or they
vow to never. Yeah,
like that.
Exactly. According to his mother, Gary was never really a normal kid, and from an early age felt like the devil was after him. He also avoided friendships as a child because he was afraid that people would just make fun of him. Which is been there.
Done that.
Been there. Also done it, but also been on the other side of it.
When I meant done that, I meant done what Gary did. Got away from people, not actually made fun of people.
Well, I was made fun of, so I made fun of, Hurt people.
Hurt people.
He cried a lot as a young boy. And even as he got older, when he actually made friends, because apparently in high school, he had a lot of friends, but he still preferred to be alone.
Okay.
In middle school, Gary once went to the roof of his school and threatened to jump off of the building.
In middle school?
Yes, in middle school. But his aunt talked him down.
Okay, this is a little advanced for a middle schooler.
It's getting dark. It's turning
really quick.
From that point on, Gary appeared to constantly be stressed out and claimed that no one understood him.
Oh my gosh, Kayla.
What?
I feel like something mentally was going on.
Oh yeah. These are early
tortured.
signs. Yeah, these are early signs of mental struggle for him, for sure. He started becoming more and more paranoid as well. He wouldn't sit with his back toward any door, and he started keeping a baseball bat in his room. I read that he also claimed that one night someone snuck into his, broke into his home while he was in the shower or something like that. Very strange. But yeah, he was just kind of thinking that someone was coming to get him. I also read somewhere that Gary lit a dog on fire as well. I read in a couple places that he started escalating his behavior to violence toward animals, but I wasn't able to verify that via the court documents. So.
Well, if anybody has seen our previous confessions, I don't bang with that.
No, we don't bang with
animal
fucking
murders.
Animal cruelty. By 11th grade, Gary had dropped out of school. Close family members say that he was normal for the most part until he returned from his first stint in prison. He came back with a wife and would suddenly start bursting out in laughter for no reason. So they were like,
Okay.
not normal behavior.
Where did this woman come from?
Oh, we're going to get to it.
Okay.
Oh, we're going to get to it. This is so different, guys. I can stare her in her face.
I know, and I feel like we're super close.
Yeah. Like in each other's mouth.
Like I'm not breathing. And I never do that.
Yeah. Okay. In 1989, Gary pleaded guilty in Dallas County to a charge of aggravated assault, and again in 1990 to a charge of aggravated robbery.
Okay.
Gary had also been arrested in 1989 for possession with intent to distribute crack cocaine. The assault charge stemmed from his attack on an ex-girlfriend, an attack that left her in the hospital for a week. You don't go to the hospital for a week for nothing,
For just getting punched in the face.
Lightly tapped or pushed down some stairs. He must have really went in on her, that poor woman.
Wow.
I'm not sure how long he got sentenced for these crimes and stuff, but I know he was still in prison in 1992 because he was interviewed by a parole division caseworker. And he said that he decided to sell crack cocaine for about 6 months just to see if he could get away with it.
Okay.
And that he committed the armed robbery of the grocery store where he used to work as an act of revenge for being fired. So it doesn't seem like he has great decision-making skills.
No.
It doesn't really seem like he cares too much about right from wrong.
No.
But it does seem like he knows what right from wrong is.
Absolutely.
So in the mental capacity in that front, he's all there.
Yeah. I feel like, especially selling coke just to see if you can get away with it, there's other things to do, Gary.
I mean, do I blame him? No. But trying to see if you can do it to not get caught, you stop like after a month. Like 6 months, it's like, bitch, you were trying to see if you could take that to the
make some money,
to the bank, you know. You were trying to make a career out of that.
Right, he's wrapped in at this point.
So Belinda Lacey, who was a former correctional officer at a facility where Gary was incarcerated, said that Gary married her. This is the wife that the family was talking about. And then he abandoned her shortly after she helped convince state parole officials to release him.
Psychopath.
Classic manipulative man.
Yes. We've seen many of those in all shapes and sizes.
Literally yesterday. Like, what the fuck? Terrible. Gary would go on to have a relationship with a woman named Shalonda Ransom, who would end up mothering 2 of his children. So Gary has kids of his own. And she claimed that Gary was very easily angered and had choked her to the point of losing consciousness. Oh my God.
And this is the mother of his kids.
How do you stay with someone? That would put like the fear of God in me. Like I couldn't.
So, Kayla, are you serious?
I couldn't.
I'm unconscious?
Bitch, I've never been unconscious in my life.
I have. But not by a man or anything like forceful like that.
I've never.
It's not fun.
So the lack of control there already is just not for me.
It's freaking her
It's
out.
not for me. A former correctional officer mentioned an incident during Gary's incarceration in which Gary threw a food tray at him and it like hit him in the face. I don't know if it hit him in the face, but it like hit him in his personal space.
Assault against
there you go, Kristen.
Charge him.
Gary's former supervisor at the grocery store said that when Gary robbed the grocery store, he was very violent. He like let off shots, like gunshots. He kicked the door in, was doing a bunch.
Like he didn't know them at all.
And he had like accomplices with him at the time too.
So imagine inviting someone into your home for them to just turn around and invite 3 more people to come back into your home and to ruin everything and to rob you.
Yeah.
That's pretty intense. And disrespectful.
Trust no one. So basically, Gary is just a fucking dangerous menace to society. And just so you guys know, all of the things that I said about the correctional officer, the former supervisor, all of these people testified at Gary's trial. Spoiler alert. He goes to trial. And they all testified against him.
Great.
So these are facts.
That's a great spoiler alert.
You guys knew what the fuck was about to happen. It is not known if Lavetta was aware of Gary's extensively violent past, but I'm almost sure she didn't know, because from what I read about Lavetta, she would have never fucked with a nigga like this if she knew this was the type of nigga he was. She was a strong, independent woman who loved her children with all her heart. So Lavetta, or Lavetta, whichever one, sorry sis, Lavetta Donnell Armstead was born on August 12th. That's our mother's birthday. 1976.
She's a Leo.
She's such a Leo. An incredible Leo. And she was described as, by her oldest son, a beautiful, loving, energetic human being that always radiated positivity.
Well, isn't that beautiful?
And rare in 2021. She had an incredible ability to make someone feel loved and just automatically better about themselves. I found the cutest video of her, Kristen. So pull it up, bitch.
Which one
pull
is
it up.
Oh.
It's the video of her jamming out to a song that she liked, and it was the cutest thing, cutest thing that I ever seen, and it really touched my heart.
She's so cute.
Guys, my fucking heart.
Jamming out.
She was so cute. You have to see
music?
this clip.
No.
Who cares? Who cares?
She's adorable.
By 27 years old, she had 3 children. Jerome, aka JT, was the oldest. Jarrett was the middle child, and Jasmine was the youngest.
Aww.
Jerome was the oldest, and he thrived in his big brother role. He said he always had to like do the dishes and do all this, that, and the third, which I totally can relate. Jarrett was a love bug who wore his heart on his sleeve. Literally like me. He must have been a Cancer. And Jasmine was a feisty little thing that told it like it was, period.
I can resonate.
Kristen can feel that. One of the neighbors actually shared a story about Jasmine where the 2 boys were talking about how fine a woman was. They were like, she looks good. And they were talking about how they were going to get her. Period. And Jasmine came up and was like, both y'all ugly.
As she should.
And she,
her 2 brothers.
And she was like 6 years old. So I love her.
Yeah.
So yeah, she loved her kids down and had a very close relationship with them. She worked as a teacher and provided a middle-class life for her and her children, which I was like, okay. And with no man in sight.
She's a baddie.
No man in sight. I couldn't find any information on how the 2 met, meaning Gary and Lavetta, but it seems as though they were really happy when the relationship first started out.
Okay.
So good that Lavetta agreed to marry Gary in 2009.
Wow.
Coming into the marriage, Lavetta was bringing way more than Gary. She had her own house. She had a good job. She had her own core. What the fuck did Gary have?
What did she need Gary for?
Because she didn't need him for anything. This had to be love. Because
Right.
he wasn't paying no bills.
Right.
He had a job at Walmart, bitch. And he maybe like moved in with a couple pair of shoes. Like, I'm giving him that. He was dusty and she fell in love.
Yeah.
She couldn't help who she loved. After they got married though, things turned real bad real quick.
Uh-oh.
According to JT, which is Jerome, the oldest, Gary did not give off the vibe of like a loving father. He was more focused on getting the respect he felt he deserved from the children.
Like, you deserve none. What do you do for me?
I've known you for maybe 6 months. Like, take a pill and chill, sir.
Like, if you don't bring anything into this house, you don't do shit for me, I don't owe you anything.
At all. But, you know how men are that feel small. They have to make everyone else feel smaller. And I think that's what he was doing. JT said he would be aggressive toward them for no reason and just really made them feel uncomfortable and almost afraid. It was the same thing for Lavetta as well. She started to see how violent and controlling he was. JT said that he knew there were problems and a lot of arguing because obviously he witnessed it. But when he saw his mom come home with a cast one day, he knew things had reached a dangerous point.
Uh-oh.
And unfortunately, young baby JT was right.
It's time to put the pause on Gary.
Bitch, let me tell you something. This is why you have to have a son. I just read a story literally yesterday. There was a 21-year-old son that ended up killing his mother's 48-year-old boyfriend or something like that, because he was being abusive and stuff. And his mother needed like a walker to get around and stuff too. So he was being abusive to her when she's already in a terrible state. Yeah. So he shot the man twice.
You know what I'm saying? Like, this is self-defense.
Violence begets violence.
And you think a young boy who loves his mom is about to sit there and see his mom getting whooped on?
I don't think so.
Some boys have it in them to be like, absolutely not.
Yeah. And he was 21, you know, he probably was like, you know, I'm a grown man and you're not about to treat my mom like that. So, whew. Yeah. Okay. About a month before the murders, 38-year-old Gary called his mother from Timberlawn Mental Hospital to let her know that he checked himself in because he felt like he was just at the end of his rope. On this call, he told her that he wanted to go to sleep and never wake up.
Wow. That's super dark.
And he actually stayed in this facility for 5 whole days until Lavetta came and picked him up. At this time, Gary and Lavetta had only been married a few months. I think they got married in June of 2009.
That's a mad red flag.
That's a huge red flag.
This man is in the mental hospital, and it hasn't even been a year yet since y'all have gotten together.
No. And he's putting his hands on me.
I would like, wipe my hands clean.
This is getting scary, you know?
Wow.
So on Monday, September 21st, 2009, 32-year-old Lovetta, she was only 32. She wrote Gary a note stating that she was done with the marriage and that he needed to move the fuck out.
Period.
About a week prior to this, Gary had found out that Lovetta was trying to get their marriage annulled behind his back.
Uh-oh.
And we already know he's a little control freak. He doesn't like strong women.
He probably felt betrayed. Like,
absolutely.
All these things.
He's having another moment of like, they're coming against me. Yeah. No one's on my side.
He's already suicidal.
Yeah. This is not going to be good. So when he read this letter, he selfishly felt like she was disrespecting him. So he wrote a letter of his own. And in his letter, what are you laughing at?
The writing of the letters is so like old school.
Yeah.
So it makes me laugh.
Like you're furious, you're just like
write a letter.
You know, like I can only imagine
talking to each other. Yeah, like, are they not in the same house?
They are in the same house. Yes. So
it's kind of cute, almost.
It's funny, but it's not going to be funny anymore. So when he wrote the letter back to her, he threatened to take 5 lives that night, including his own. So while Lavetta is reading this letter in the master bedroom, Gary went to the kitchen and grabbed knives.
No.
And then he went to Jasmine's room.
Kayla,
okay. All right. Did I warn you? This is fucking awful. This is also a listener requested case.
Who is the listener? I need to message you privately.
I'm actually about to tell you guys right now. Hold on.
Because this is intense. And it hasn't even begun. And it's so intense.
We're getting into it.
As soon as you said Jasmine and knife, I'm crying.
Yeah. It was horrible. And I will tell you now, he didn't use any of those knives on Jasmine. So thank the Lord. So this case was requested by our girl, Monica. Hey, Monica girl.
Girl, where you get this case from?
Where you find this case at, child? Because it's too much. There's also an episode about this case on a show called Evil Lives Here. And it's on Discovery Plus. Sign yourself up for a little trial and watch it because it's really, really, really good. It's season 2, episode 6. You're welcome.
I would say.
Thank you. So here we go. He headed to Jasmine's room where he tied her up and duct taped her mouth shut. So he tied her hands behind her back, and then with a telephone cord, he tied her feet as well. Next, he carried Jasmine into the master bedroom and laid her on the end of the bed. He would later admit that Jasmine even attempted to say, "Boy, stop," while he was like tying her up.
First of all, I love Jasmine.
Because we love her.
She's my everything.
Yes.
Calling this grown man a boy.
Like, boy, you better stop.
Hey, boy.
I ain't got time
For this. Put me down. What are you doing?
Literally, Kristen. No, but literally. Put me down.
I'm so upset.
My fucking heart. Okay. Breathe it out, guys. Breathe it out with us.
In your face.
Mm-hmm. And for the next hour and a half, Jasmine was forced to watch Gary viciously attack her mother, stabbing her a whopping 30 times, even breaking the blade and grabbing another one to continue stabbing her. Yeah, Kristen.
And he brought Jasmine in to watch.
Yes. Like, I'm really gonna hurt you, bitch, the worst way. I got your daughter. Yes, Kristen.
So it wasn't even like killing her was enough.
No,
he had to have.
He wanted to destroy
pain.
her.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he wanted to destroy her.
Kayla, I'm so over this case.
Well, it gets worse. Oh, my stomach. After Gary was sure Lavetta was dead, he took Jasmine into the master bathroom, filled up the tub, and then held Jasmine under the water. Whew. She drowned, obviously. No. He held her under there until she died. He then pulled her out and laid her right there on the bathroom floor, just literally right at the foot of the tub.
I'm so pissed.
Gary himself then took a shower, changed his clothes, and headed to the church where 10-year-old Jarrett and 12-year-old JT were at. So I guess they usually would go to church and stay, for certain events or something. It was a Monday, so I'm not sure if they had something special going on, but they were at the church.
And he knew that.
Yes. According to Jarrett and JT's testimonies later in court, that day was like any other day. They went to church, but instead of their mom picking them up, like she always did, it was Gary this time. JT noticed that Gary was wearing all black, which was pretty strange. And when he asked why his mom didn't pick them up, Gary said that she went out with some friends and told him to take the boys to their grandmother's house where Jasmine was already at. So JT's
he had a whole lie ready.
Oh, prepared. So JT's like, okay, cool, no problem. Like, whatever. But first they stopped by the house, and when they got there, Gary told JT, which you guys is the oldest, to go take a shower, and then he told Jarrett to go put on his pajamas to prepare for bed. So it's kind of like, why am I putting on my pajamas if I'm just going to
my grandma's
house? But it was later in the evening. At this time, it was probably around, I want to say 9 o'clock, 9:15 p.m. So that's likely. According to Jarrett, Gary took him into the kitchen to talk about behavioral issues that he was having at school. And while they were talking, Gary grabbed a knife and held it to Jarrett's throat and started walking toward the bathroom. So he grabbed Garrett by his collar, had the knife to his neck, and was walking him toward the bathroom where JT was. So before JT was able to get out of the bathroom, he heard Jarrett scream bloody murder, and he was saying, "Help, he's trying to kill me."
And then I'm guessing this is not the same bathroom that Jasmine is in lying.
No, that's the master bathroom. So JT comes out, he comes into the bathroom door, doorway, where he saw Gary holding Jarrett by his collar with a knife. Gary then locked all three of them inside of the bathroom together.
That's a small ass bathroom.
Kristen, you don't know how big. It could be a small bathroom.
It's not the master.
Let's just say it probably is a small bathroom. But either way, they're all in this bathroom with Gary, who's sitting on the counter with 3 knives next to him. And then he says, quote, "Now give me a reason why I shouldn't kill you."
Bitch, I'm about to kill you. There's 3 of us in here. There's 3 knives. We all have a fair chance at getting out of here.
Are you joking? I'm lunging for that. I don't know what I'm doing, bitch.
I would look at JT. JT would look at me. Bitch,
no, seriously though.
grab the knife.
And these are me as an adult. I'm like, bitch, what do I do? But these are children, so they really don't know what the fuck to do.
This big ass man has locked them in the bathroom with him and 3 knives. That's scary.
That is facing. You're staring death in the face. In the face. So Jarrett, being better than you, me, and probably everybody else, started listing reasons. He said, "Listen, I'm too young to die. if you really love me, you wouldn't kill me. Kristen, he was ready to go. That poor fucking baby. 10 years old. Oh my God, I'm hugging him right now. I'm hugging him. But it seemed to like kind of just make Gary mad. Yeah. And Gary just lunged at him and stabbed him right in the stomach.
No.
Yes.
No, I'm not ready for this.
I know. I didn't give that good of a warning at the top. I gotta do better with that. JT said he pushed Gary away with every ounce of strength in his 12-year-old body. And when Gary tried to lunge at JT with the knife to try to stab him, he missed. Okay, thank the Lord. Gary then apparently told the boys that he wasn't going to kill them, but that he had something to show them. And as they were leaving the bathroom, Gary tried to put the knife to Jared's throat again. But this time, like, to really try to push it in. Yeah. But Jared being the motherfucking G that he is at 10 years old, he's still a G. He ducked out of the way in time.
Period. And Jared, Lord, you have my life in your hands right now, Jared. I'm hanging on by a thread.
Your survival instincts are amazing. Gary then said, all right, come on. I tried again, failed. Okay, now I mean it. Now I mean it this time. I'm really not going to kill you. Let's go.
Kristen, you got that. All right, come on. I still want to show you something. Like everything's just cool. Like, oh, that was a joke. This is a game.
It's disgusting. So wrong. He then led the two boys to the master bedroom, where they found their mom lying on the floor. JT said in the Evil Lives Here documentary episode, he said that she was just like sprawled out, and he just ran to her and fell to his knees and just started crying. At 12 years old, trying to shake his mom, it was just horrifying.
Jeez Louise.
And this is when they said Gary confessed to killing their mother because she was trying to divorce him. He said he, quote, loved her to death and didn't want to be without her. So that's why he did what the fuck he did.
You were literally going to commit suicide, Gary.
You might as well have just done that and taken no one with you.
Right. Not that we condone suicide.
No. But him, if that was your plan anyway, don't involve anyone else.
Right.
Dickheads. According to JT, he then looked toward the direction of the bathroom and saw his little sister with her arms and legs tied up and no signs of life in her body. Yeah. Kristen's doing the me and you will never part Maki Dada game thing from the color. From the color purple. Oh, Lord. In the episode, JT said that this was the moment something in him just broke.
Period.
And that he didn't feel trauma anymore. He just remembers feeling like, wow, this is really fucking sick.
Wow.
Gary changed his clothes again.
What are they doing during this time?
The kids?
Yeah.
Bitch, probably holding their breath to pray that he's gone, or pray that he leaves, or still mourning over their sister and their mom, So Gary changed his clothes again, took some pills off of the dresser, and told the boys to call the police after he left. Before leaving, he told the boys he was going to kill himself and then gave them a hug. Yeah. JT said usually he'll say, okay, see you later. It's not goodbye, it's see you later. But then he said this time he said, it's goodbye.
Wow.
So after he left, the boys called 911 and ran to their neighbor's house, who was Latasha Bradfield. And they were comfortable with her. They knew her and stuff. And she took the phone and started talking to the police instead. You guys can hear that 911 call on the episode. According to Latasha, the boys were screaming and crying with Jared holding his stomach because, baby boy was stabbed, saying that Gary had killed their mother and their sister. So obviously she believed them, but she went next door to verify, and she saw Lavetta and Jasmine just lifeless. Police immediately started investigating when they arrived and found 4 kitchen knives missing from the kitchen and later found in different places around the house. They also found the handwritten letters
between them two.
Exactly. In the master bedroom. So if you're on Patreon, you can see the letters right now, and it's pretty eerie because you can see like there's blood on the letters. So it makes me feel like she was probably still reading the letter when he started attacking her.
Or the letter was on the bed.
just something. I didn't see a lot of blood on the bed. Mm-hmm. It was mostly in the bathroom and on the floor. But, you know, who knows? Lavetta's mother later identified the handwriting as being Lavetta's and Gary's. In the letter, Gary expressed how angry he was with Lavetta for planning to leave and how he plans to murder the whole family for it. One quote from his letter says, quote, "You asked to see the monster, so here he is. The monster you made me, bitch. There will be 5 lives taken today, me being the 5th. End quote.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So what made him spare the boys?
Honestly, I think it was just like a freak of nature moment. I think Jared, being the real one that he is, maybe just convinced him and said, you know, if you really love us, you won't do it. Mm-hmm. Because there's really no explanation other than he felt like they gave him a good answer, you know?
And then he hugs them before he leaves.
It's just really fucking sick and twisted.
It's completely sick. I don't understand.
Because there could be love attached to it, but love can make you do some fucking horrible, evil things too.
We see.
At this point, investigators want to find Gary ASAP because obviously he's their number one suspect, but it's looking like he's on the run at this point. Until around 2:15 a.m. when Gary, along with his mother and little brother, showed up at a police substation. His mother told the officers working that her son might be involved in a murder. And once confirming some details provided, the officer put Gary under arrest.
Okay.
So, thank the Lord.
Went home to mommy.
He did. Mm-hmm. Let me just say this now. Okay. No, because we're going to get to it. It's a little funny. So, I'm going to wait. Homicide Detective Robert Quirk and his partner, Detective Ahern, headed to the police station from the crime scene to talk to Gary. After Gary was Mirandized, they asked if he was still open to talk with them about what happened, and he agreed and proceeded to give them a full confession. Bitch, no fighting.
He was like, done. I did this. He was already ready
to
kill himself.
Yeah. He told the detectives everything. He told them where to find the letters, which they already had. And he even told them where to find Lavetta's car because he fled the scene in her car. When they found the car, they find a soda can in there and a Benadryl blister pack with about 26 pills gone. So he attempted suicide with Benadryl. I'm gonna kill myself. I'm gonna take some Benadryl.
You might need to take the whole bottle. I'm not sure how these things work.
I don't think you can commit suicide with something over the counter.
I don't know.
Something as over the counter as Benadryl.
Maybe not. I mean, it didn't work on him.
No. He probably needed like maybe 200 pills. Because
he was a big boy.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of glad it didn't work. He doesn't deserve to just
the sweet release of death. Yeah, not yet.
Not yet.
During the interview, Gary was compliant and answered all the questions he was asked. He told the detectives about his history of mental illness and how he'd been in a hospital just 1 month before the murders. He also told them how he felt that Lavetta and her kids were plotting against him and that he was hearing voices telling him to kill them all. He was going to then kill himself with the pills so that the family could be reunited again.
Wow.
Just a psycho manipulator, family annihilator.
I can't crazy talk. Though. But he has also been going through this since he was young, torturing his mind. Like, the dude's probably schizophrenic. There's definitely some stuff that's going on with him. And he cracked. It just really sucks that it seems like it's very likely that people with mental illnesses that aren't treated are likely to become violent and homicidal. Like, why is there a correlation with that? Because I feel like the mind is one of the strongest things in our body, and it determines whether we know how to freaking act or we don't. Yeah, you're right. And when the mind is ill, everything else is ill. You're playing with fire. So I'm going to play a clip from his interview now. The audio may not be the best because I had to like finesse and record this because Discovery Plus is not letting y'all take shit, nothing. So I had to find a way around it. So listen to this.
You know that the man is always in control. Right. She always tries to control me. She want me to know. Telling me that she want to leave me and she want to move on with her life. So So this is yesterday. She's telling you in a letter form that she wants to move on. How many times do you think you stabbed her? Are you talking like a couple times or a bunch of times or? Maybe about 30. About 30 times, you think?
And if you guys can't hear that too clearly, he starts off by saying, usually the man is in control and he is, has the power, but she always tried to control me. That's what he says. Mm-hmm. Which is like, if you even glance at Lavetta, that's not true. It's not true.
And him probably talking about control is probably her trying to make him a better person. Like, hey, What do you got going on today? Hey, do this and do that. As the man should.
And then he says so nonchalantly, oh, I stabbed her about 30 times.
Yeah, maybe 30 times.
Ugh, his demeanor too is so relaxed. Like, so relaxed that he did nothing wrong feel. And then when he's asked about Jasmine, that's the only time he shows like real remorse. He was like, when he was holding her under the water, he had to look away because he was disgusted by what he was doing. Yet he continued to do it. So it's like, pish the fuck posh. Whatever you're saying is bullshit. So we know that he has confessed. And now it's time for trial because although he gave a full confession, he didn't plead guilty. Which is understandable. I see your face, but it's understandable in this situation because we're in Texas, y'all. And Texas will throw you in that chair in a second. So yes, he's facing the death penalty for these cases if he's convicted.
Yeah, but all I'm thinking is that he said not guilty by plea of insanity. Like, that's the only plea I could see.
That, I didn't see that was entered. I didn't see that at all. And we're kind of going to get to that, actually. So the trial started in October of 2010. The prosecution was ready as hell for this case. They had their evidence lined up. Everything was straight. They had the DNA they found under Lovetta's fingernails. That was straight up hers and Gary's. Mm-hmm. That's it. They also found sperm cell DNA in her nook and cranny because they did a swab and stuff like that. But the forensics person wasn't able to tell when the sex happened, the intercourse happened. They were just able to tell that it happened relatively recently.
Which just makes me sick of him.
Which makes me feel even more disgusted. The medical examiner testified that Lavetta had been stabbed more than 25 times, including, okay guys, this is going to get a little graphic. One in the right back, like one on the right side of her back that punctured her right lung, and one on the back of the left thigh that was 8 inches deep.
Jeez Louise.
One stab wound, 8 inches deep. Good Lord. She also had stab wounds on her elbows and hands, which is like,
defensive
absolutely. Marks. On the back of her neck, her abdomen, and her upper back. And then all these wounds were consistent with the confession that Gary gave.
He stabbed her in the neck?
He stabbed her in the neck. Yes. Oh, gosh. I can't, Lord. You know what? Monica, babe. I got a bone to pick with you for requesting this case. Because
I'm like, was he turning her? Because how did he stab her in the front and the back?
Well, girl, she's fighting him this whole time. So
she's probably trying to...
She really is. And she was able to get off of a couple of swings on him. She actually got a hold of a knife at one point and stabbed him in the back twice.
Okay.
But they were kind of like superficial wounds, and she was too badly hurt to do more. Yeah. In regards to little Jasmine, her autopsy showed a hemorrhage on the very top of her head. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking maybe that happened when he was holding her into the water and her head was on the bottom of the thing.
Yeah.
And she had petechia in her eyes, which means the blood vessels in her eyes had burst. Her lungs showed pulmonary edema, which is caused by low oxygen levels. And residue was also found on her mouth, verifying Gary's claim of putting tape over it. The prosecution even brought old girlfriends to the stand to testify. Remember, we talked about that earlier. One brave woman provided pictures of the ligature marks around her neck from when Gary choked her with a cord one time.
Jeez Louise.
You guys will see the pictures in a second if you're on Patreon. They are horrific.
Intense.
I will not be posting them anywhere else.
I thought that they were like knife marks that had healed. Like, no. That's how deep they look.
They are so deep. I don't even think they're gonna heal in the sense of like go away.
Nah,
because in the pictures, it looks fully healed. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, can you imagine? Lord help us. So basically the prosecution was working overtime. They were like, this motherfucker is going to jail if we have anything to do with him. But the defense was, bitch, going out sad. Per the usual, I feel like, lately in our cases. Mm-hmm. The defense provided no contradictory evidence in this case. They didn't try to argue that someone else did it. Nothing like that.
How could they?
Exactly. They wanted to focus on mitigating factors. Because, what the fuck else can you do in this situation when your client has confessed to a double homicide?
And once again, what are mitigating factors?
Mitigating factors are factors that the jury can use to make their decision when it comes to sentencing.
Okay.
So it's really kind of just like, we're already knowing that we're going to be found guilty. Mm-hmm. Use this to determine how you sentence this man. The defense called a Dr. Martinez to the stand, who, after evaluating Gary, diagnosed him with schizoaffective disorder of the bipolar type.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And that is a severe mental illness characterized by severe depression, withdrawal, lack of motivation, insomnia, loss of appetite, intense sadness, and thinking characterized by suspiciousness, agitation, irritability, or elevated mood, and paranoid, possibly delusional thoughts.
Okay.
So almost Gary to the T.
Right.
Dr. Martinez also diagnosed Gary with features of several different personality disorders. Some being borderline personality disorder, paranoid personality disorder, avoidant personality disorder, depressive personality, and antisocial personality disorder.
So all of them.
So any personality disorder
that you could
possible,
think of,
Gary was diagnosed with. Which, when situations like that happen, I'm like, it just seems like you're trying to umbrella him into something. Like, you're really just trying to force it. Because that's way too many labels, I feel, for one person.
I don't know. I feel like he's been dealing with this all his entire life. Yeah. He could have every single one of them and accumulated them over time, but also started out with a bunch.
You're right, Pooh. You're right. When questioned by the prosecution on cross, Dr. Martinez admitted Gary was not diagnosed with a mental illness during either of his prior incarcerations or while in custody prior to trial. But Dr. Martinez expressed their opinion that the quality of mental health care Gary received was poor, which is not a surprise at all. They're not really caring if you're mentally okay in prison.
Right.
They're not going out of their way to make sure you're good in that sense. So I feel like, Gary was never properly evaluated for any of this shit in his life at all.
But another thing that pisses me off is, like, he checked himself into a whole mental hospital. Why did they not evaluate him and diagnose him with something?
Kristen, you are preaching to the choir.
Are we kidding?
And then for him to have a mental illness history that is documented, and yet there is no diagnosis attached to any of this.
No medication.
What are we doing? What's the point of any of it?
So Gary was just left to fester.
It seems like it. It really seems like he was just left to get worse.
And Lavetta pays the price.
And she pays the price. And absolutely. And JT and Jared, because they're traumatized.
Wow.
The jury deliberated and found Gary Green guilty of both counts of first-degree murder.
Great.
Period. Apparently, during the punishment phase, was the only time Gary's mental health history was really brought up for consideration. What the fuck is wrong with these defense attorneys? They need to be arrested. Playing with people's lives like this. Which is clearly, obviously, a huge disservice to his case. Yeah, we know he still did it. But if we're talking about the justice system working, it needs to fucking work whether we
want it to or not.
You know what I'm saying? Whether it's in our favor or against us, whatever.
And in our previous case, we even talked about this happening where the defense lawyer did not represent. Yep. And it led to almost a great appeal argument because you didn't provide what you said you were going to provide.
It did lead to a great appeal argument, but the governor and everyone else didn't give a shit and wanted to put Wanda to death. Mm-hmm. So that case was crazy. Anyway. Gary's mother, brother, and grandmother all spoke about his tendency to hear voices and how long he'd been dealing with these kinds of issues. So literally his whole life. But at this point, after hearing everything he did to Lovetta and Jasmine, the jury wasn't trying to hear any of that. And they sentenced him to death.
Wow.
Jared was even brave enough to address Gary in court, saying, quote, "Hey, Gary, I love you. And I thought you weren't going to betray me like this. To me, you were my father and I love you. But I'm not going to let you take over my life." End quote.
Kayla, I'm crying.
My nose is tingling up a little bit.
No, my eyes are about to overflow.
What a strong
This is Jared.
Man. Yeah, this is Jared, the one that was stabbed. The one that honestly saved him and his brother's life by saying, we're too young to die. Like, don't fucking do it.
But he was also the one that was, like, hurt physically by Gary as well.
Absolutely. And still was, like, strong enough to even face this man and say something like that.
This is hard.
Jared, if you're listening, you are incredible.
You are an incredible person. JT as well.
Lord, I can only pray for you guys. In his appeals, they claimed that Gary was suffering from mental illness when he killed Lavetta and Jasmine, and that he was not cognizant of what he was actually doing.
That's a lie.
Complete lie. Thank you, Kristen. He was having a delusional and paranoid moment and felt like his family was conspiring against him. Essentially, they are reaching for an insanity defense, finally, or a diminished capacity ruling at best. But the appeals court had the following to say, quote, "In order for diminished capacity to negate the required mens rea," and mens rea is the intention or knowledge of wrongdoing,
okay,
the jury would have to believe that the appellant suffered from a mental illness, that he was suffering from that very mental illness at the time of the murders, and that because of the mental illness, he was not acting intentionally or knowingly when he committed the murders. So basically, they have to believe that you were having an episode when you committed these murders.
Which led to the murder.
They went on to say, the record shows that evidence of appellant's mental illness was not presented until the punishment phase of trial. Moreover, even if appellant had presented such evidence during the guilt stage, given the motive, the letter, and the confession, a rational trier of fact could still have found beyond a reasonable doubt that appellant was guilty of capital murder. Point of error 26 is overruled.
Ooh.
So basically, they denied his appeal. They said it doesn't matter if you had all this mental health issues and stuff like that. Even if your defense attorney didn't shit the bed and mentioned it at your first trial, it wouldn't have made a difference.
Wow.
And Gary Green is still currently sitting on death row in a Texas penitentiary.
Girl.
And he's 50 years old.
Only 50? He got a long way to go.
He got a long way to go.
But he is on death row.
He is on death row. He's waiting to be put to death. Yeah.
That's hard because on one hand, this man has been dealing with mental issues his entire life.
Correct.
Who was batting for Gary? Who was trying to say Gary needs help?
No one.
When they could before he committed a crime like this.
No one.
But at the same time, I completely agree with the appellate court. Are you kidding me? You didn't have a mental episode when you killed them.
No.
You had enough sense to write a letter, to sit down and do that. Let her read it, go prepare and get the knives.
Yes.
Tie Jasmine up. You knew exactly what you were doing.
Complete and utter premeditation.
And then go get the boys.
I was about to say, and then bring them back and threaten to kill them as well. It's just, there was so much like, I want to do this, so I'm going to do this.
Because
and then
I'm
even
off myself.
Exactly. And then even him admitting to the boys, I killed your mom because she was leaving me. That has nothing to do with your mental illness, sir. If you had a moment where you did something and you didn't know why or what you were doing, you wouldn't have had the wherewithal to tell them the reasoning behind it.
Exactly. And he wasn't making that up. It wasn't it's
real.
in my head that they're plotting against me. No, she literally wrote a letter.
Yeah.
Like she wants to divorce you.
She was plotting to leave you. You weren't delusional in this moment.
No, that was your reality.
Yeah. Yeah. And he fucking snapped.
Wow, that was so hard.
That was really hard.
I was praying to God Jasmine did not die.
I know. When I first saw it, I was like, obviously heartbroken Lavetta died, but then I read more and I was like, fuck, like Jasmine was only 6 years old. The only thing she did wrong was be in the wrong place.
Be in the house.
At the wrong time. And it's just awful. So I'm really, really glad that the state of Texas got it right. You know what I'm saying? The person that's responsible for this is being held responsible. And that's pretty much the only positive thing that came out of this, other than JT and Jared still, you know, being alive, thank the Lord. And JT has a daughter now.
Wow.
And he said she reminds him so much of Jasmine. She's so sassy. And if you saw a picture of her, Kristen, they look so much alike.
Her and Jasmine?
Yes, so much alike. So it's so precious and beautiful.
Wow.
And
well, if you guys do not see a pattern out of all the BTC cases we have, it's that mental illness is freaking real.
Yeah, it's not a joke.
If you know someone who needs help, get them help. Nowadays, shit like that is for free. You can find resources and organizations that help people with mental illness. Please, for the love of God.
You could literally be saving your life, someone else's life. Shit. Don't sleep on your mental health.
So,
period.
With that being said,
we love you guys so much. And don't forget, be safe. Kristen fucks this every time. Be safe. Protect your peace. And protect your space. So we don't have to cover your case.
Bye.
Love you. Bye.
You have a right to kill me. I have a right to do that. But you have no right to judge me.